We will go now to Susana Gaona Sáez, who is a research programming officer at the Research Innovation Unit of the Directorate General for Agriculture and Rural Development. She will explain us what we can expect of Horizon Europe. We are still in 2020, coming to an end, so Horizon 2020 also coming to an end. And we're looking forward what the new research innovation framework will bring, and in particular then what it will bring for organic food and farming. Please, Susana, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Bram. Thank you. First of all, can you hear me well? Okay, I start. I assume I can be heard. So as Bram indicated, I am Susana Gaona Sáez. I'm indeed Research Program Officer in the DG AGRI of the European Commission. I work in the Research and Innovation Unit. I am in particular responsible for programming research in the areas of agroecology, organic farming, and also others such as mixed farming, agroforestry, which are all related. So I've been asked, and I would like to first of all thank you very much for this invitation, because it's a pleasure always to be with you, to be with the sector. Of course, it's a pity that we cannot see each other in person, but due to the circumstances, we have to do it like this, and it's still good to exchange. So I've been asked to present or to explain what is going to be the role of research and innovation in agroecology and organic farming in Horizon Europe. Of course, we are at the moment, as we speak, we are finalizing or we're still preparing the first draft of the first work program of Horizon Europe from 2021 to 2022. So I am unfortunately not going to be able to discuss or to present to you in concrete terms the content of the work program, but I will try to give you some indications or where we are heading in relation to agroecology and organic farming. So I think it's first good to say, to mention, to remind that we are not starting from scratch. Indeed, already in Horizon 2020, that is, as Bram indicates, finishing already this year, we have invested quite a big amount of EU funding in research in ecological approaches, which includes, of course, agroecology and organic farming. We identified already 4 years ago ecological approaches from farm to landscape as one of the priorities for agri research. So this is, of course, translated into close to 40 projects dealing with the challenges of agroecology, including also organic farming, for an amount of around 240 million euro already invested. And in concrete terms, when we look at the specific challenges of organic farming, we have had 8 organic projects, so to say, and 1 ERA-net, core organic, that it's been actually quite successful in promoting synergies and common joint programming among the member states, specifically in organic. So the amount devoted is, you can see in the screen, 46 million euro EU funding, collaboration with a high number of member states and many more partners. This is just an overview of some of those projects, the ones devoted really to organic challenges. You can see at the top, even also thematic networks like Biofruit Net, not so long ago launched. But of course, organic is also part of other projects that perhaps are not conceived as, let's say, addressing specifically the challenges of organic farming, but they also benefit, of course, the objectives of organic farming, such as projects on weed management, alternatives, methods to deal with weeds, etc. Of course, all these projects also benefit the organic sector and agroecology. So we should see it in a wider perspective. I think it's before entering into Horizon Europe and to the programming and to how this organic and agroecology feature there, I think it's important to look at the ongoing policy priorities and the policy context in the European Union. Of course, we have the CAP with its objectives and the possibilities to promote more sustainable farming practices, including recently this council agreement on the eco schemes and the possibility to have support to specifically organic farming, agroecology, and also agroforestry, for instance, under these eco schemes. This is an important and interesting possibility. But of course, we also have the European Green Deal and the ambitions to make of Europe the first climate neutral continent in the world, and there we also see, of course, an important role of the agricultural sector, and interesting opportunities also for agroecology and for organic farming, because we believe really that these two approaches can really help greatly in achieving those objectives. And notably, we have the objectives set up in the farm to fork strategy and also biodiversity strategy that specifically refer to these sectors, and they are, I think, very important in guiding not only actions on policy side, but also on the research and innovation side. I should say that these are not the only two relevant strategies for agroecology and organic. Of course, there are others ambitions under the European Green Deal, such as the zero pollution targets that are also relevant for these farming practices, and also for instance, the climate pact. So we shouldn't see it only as relevant for these two strategies, because it's really cross-cutting even. So very briefly, I believe you all know about the farm to fork strategy, and that you know the objectives is really aimed to foster the transition to a healthy, sustainable, and food system in Europe, really ensuring that we have neutral or positive impact, environmental impact on food production. So make sure that this is reduced as much as possible. Also ensure food security and public health, very, very important as well, and also preserve the affordability of food. In regards, with regard to the weight of agroecology and organic farming in the strategy, you of course know about the mention that there is an urgent need to reduce the dependency on pesticides, antimicrobials, reduce excess fertilization, increase organic farming, improve animal welfare, reverse biodiversity loss, and all of this is very, very relevant, of course, also for agroecological approaches in a wider sense. In terms of more concrete research and innovation aspects, the strategy mentions this the partnership, the candidate partnership on agroecology, living labs, and research infrastructures that we are proposing for co-funding under Horizon Europe. So it's going to be, it's identified in the strategy as an important tool to foster new knowledge and innovation to scale up agroecological approaches in primary production through the living laboratories. This has been already mentioned by Emil before, and maybe we can talk a little bit later about it. In terms of the targets, of course, you know that it's one of the important targets of the farm to fork strategy concerns directly the organic sector, and is really reaching at least 25% of the EU's agricultural land under organic farming by 2030, and a significant increase in organic aquaculture. Also very, very important, of course. In relation to the CAP, as you know, it fosters or it identifies or pushes a bit, let's say, the CAP to really identify these new eco schemes that should offer a major stream of funding for agroecology, including organic farming and other sustainable farming practices. With regard to the EU biodiversity strategy, is equally important. It's really aiming to ensure that Europe's biodiversity will be on the path to recovery by 2030. And it's also important to highlight that the strategy recognizes the importance to work with farmers and to support and incentivize transition to fully sustainable practices together with them. In terms of the mention of the agroecology and organic farming in the strategy, you have it on the screen. Is pretty much mirroring what the farm to fork strategy already says. So this is just an overview of the key targets identified by the farm to fork strategy. Of course, we have the one at the end on organic farming, but I think we should look at also the others, because I wouldn't see them as separated in silos. For me, organic farming and agroecology will also provide a key contribution to reducing 50% of chemical pesticides, and also in terms of nutrient losses and reduction of fertilizers, agroecology and organic farming can provide a key contribution. For instance, if you think about the use of legume crops in terms of the minimizing the use of nitrogen fertilizers, and also in the case of animal production, they're reducing the antimicrobials used in farm animals in aquaculture. It's also important to mention. Of course, these targets should be reminded that these targets are not legally binding, but of course they are going to play an important role when we evaluate the EU policies, and also when the member states will need to define the CAP strategic plans. They will need to consider their objectives and targets in defining those. And of course, it's also important to remember that besides these targets quantified, as we can see, there are also many other objectives that don't have, let's say, numerical targets per se, but are also equally important to mention. And for instance, we have promotion of healthy and sustainable food consumption. We have improving animal welfare, etc. So these are also important objectives that we should not forget, not because they don't have a number attached to it. And also research and innovation has a role also to play in ensuring that these are catered for. So we see, of course, the European Green Deal, and we see as research and innovation are key enablers for achieving the objectives of the European Green Deal. When we come to Horizon Europe, very quickly, I will just remind of the structure. So Horizon Europe is going to be the new research and innovation program for the European Union from 2021 to 2027. It has a new structure when you compare to the current Horizon 2020. And in particular, what is interesting, I think, for most of us, or most of you, I should say, is what we can see under Pillar 2 on global challenges in European industrial competitiveness, which is divided according to clusters. The most interesting one for the agricultural sector is the one on food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and environment. You can see that in green, but it doesn't mean that the others are not relevant. For instance, on health and in digital, there are also interlinkages with what we can do on agricultural activities under the cluster 6. As you may know, the Commission proposed budget for this cluster of 10 billion euro. As you also know or may know, the negotiations on the annual financial framework are not yet finalized. This is still, of course, pending some political discussions, as you know, and until we don't have that agreement, we don't know exactly how much money we are going to have for basically for funding activities under this cluster. But this is hopefully going to be known soon. But in the meantime, we need to proceed with the programming, and we are working a bit with assumptions in this regard. In terms of the cluster 6, just to quickly mention that it is considered, or it's divided in 7 intervention areas that you can see in the slide. The most relevant one for agricultural and for agroecology and organic farming, of course, are the one under the intervention areas on agriculture, forestry, and rural areas. But I should say that not only, and we are here again not working in silos according to intervention areas, it is also most relevant for food systems and for activities on biodiversity and natural resources. So here we are working across silos, if you want, and with other colleagues in other parts of the Commission, because both agroecology and organic farming are seen as cross-cutting or system thinking approaches that need to go beyond one single intervention area. This is just an illustration quickly about let's say the cluster 6 cross-cutting expected impacts that have been defined in parallel with the definition of the strategic plan. I'm not going to enter into too many technicalities, but just to say that these cross-cutting expected impacts are let's say orienting the definition of destinations under which the work program is being divided. So it's really mirroring the cross-cutting expected impacts that are about climate neutrality and adaptation to climate change, about biodiversity, about sustainable and circular management and use of natural resources, about sustainable primary production, about inclusive development of vibrant rural areas, and about also governance models enabling sustainability. So these are mirror in the destinations under which the work program is being structured. As you can see here, an illustration of how the destinations are matching, if you want, the the priorities identified in the European Green Deal, and you can see that we are quite well geared towards supporting the achievements of the Green Deal. And we are trying, of course, in this sense to prioritize and to put the emphasis and the efforts in those areas where we believe we can make a real difference on the ground. Research in agroecology and organic farming, I think, are among those areas, and not only relevant for the farm to fork strategy, but I would also emphasize Destination 1, protecting nature, Destination 5, climate pact and climate law, and also others. This is important to be reminded. In terms of concretely how agroecology and organic are featuring in more, let's say, more official documents, as I said at the beginning, I cannot unfortunately enter into giving you any details of what is currently in the draft of the work program. This is being discussed with the member states, so we cannot disclose that information. But already, of course, in designing those research and innovation activities, we follow, of course, what was already identified in the orientations document towards the first strategic plan of Horizon Europe. This is a document that was prepared already, was finalized at the end of last year, and it was the result of an intensive co-creation process internally within the Commission, but also, I should say, with all of you, with all the stakeholders, and all your inputs were taken into consideration in preparing these and in identifying the priorities. In the screen, you can see a couple of places where the orientations document mentions the organic sector and agroecology. Of course, for agroecology, also the partnership is referred to, as it is going to be, in our view, an important instrument to support the upscaling of agroecological approaches, and including also organic farming, of course, and agroforestry. We shouldn't forget that. So in this process, we are, of course, identifying, in preparing the work program, identifying the key priorities for research and innovation. There are many, of course, as you know, but because its challenges for our food and farming sectors are big, are many, are numerous. And we have to really try to do our best to cater for all of them with the budget that we have available. You have some of them on the screen, and others, of course, here, and you see organic farming and agroecology are among those. But there are many others, as you can see. In terms of where we are in Horizon Europe and the preparation for the first program for Horizon Europe, the orientations document is serving as the guidance to define the strategic plan, which is going to cover from 2021 to 2024. And this is being the basis for defining, among others, the multi-annual work programs and calls, so really the first work program under preparation, and also the identification of European partnerships and missions, which are two kind of novel instruments under Horizon Europe, also very important to consider in this context. As I say, we have, besides the kind of, we could say, normal calls under the work program, so the normal research projects, and in Horizon Europe, there is a new approach to particularly partnerships. Partnerships are going to be, in a way, upscaled, and are going to be really large initiatives, bringing together, avoiding as much as possible the working in silos and the multiplication of several partnerships that may have perhaps sometimes overlaps in activities. So the objective is really to have big initiatives on targeted themes that have already been pre-identified. The main, the ones that you can see illustrated in the slide are those that are relevant for Cluster 6 of Horizon Europe. I'm highlighting the one on agroecology, living labs and research infrastructures. Of course, it's obviously the most relevant for you, but there are also others on the agricultural sector, agriculture of data, animals health and welfare, and others touching also some aspects like food systems, also relevant for you, I believe. Blue economy is a bit better because this is more about fisheries, but still also, why not? Water, circular bio-based sector, and etc. And biodiversity, I don't know if it's there, yeah, but it's also very important. In terms of the agroecology partnership, very quickly, because I believe most of you already know quite a lot about it. We were very happy to have all of you involved in the webinars that we prepared at the beginning of earlier this year to prepare this, to start preparing this partnership, and we really appreciated the inputs that we got from IFOAM, from FIBUL, from TB Organics in the process. we're still there. So what is the objective of this partnership? So what we want to achieve with it is really accelerating the transition towards agroecology, towards sustainable climate and ecosystem-friendly farming practices, with a focus really on agroecology and also including organic farming. And the way we want to do this is really to, as I think Emil was mentioning this a bit at the beginning, that change, or this is also what we believe, the change is really urgent. We need to accelerate this transition, and we need to find perhaps new innovative models or ways to help or to work in collaboration, not to help farmers, but really more to work in collaboration with farmers to accelerate this uptake of practices, design together, find solutions to the problems on the ground in the specific places where they happen. And this is where we believe that living labs can provide a key contribution. Uh, this is also the reason why we believe the agroecology and living lab have common elements, or that we think they can fit together very nicely. Adapted to local ecosystems is place-based. Agroecology is clearly place-based. And living labs, at least for what we have seen in other sectors, are also place-based. So this is already an important element that we can try to find synergies and see how they can really support the upscaling of these practices in a specific context, involving actors at territorial level to achieve large-scale impact, of course. Social and behavioral dimensions, I think this is very important. We are not talking here only about diminishing inputs and yields, and as Emil was mentioning already at the beginning, we are also looking into the possibilities to go really beyond. It is about the holistic approach. It is about changing drastically the way we produce food, and this entails not only what farmers do, but also what other actors along the chain, and not least researchers can help there, and advisors, of course. So it's really a systems approach, and we believe that the living lab approach can be very helpful in that. We are proposing a partnership because, contrary to what normal research projects can perhaps do, a partnership can ensure the necessary long-term impact and continuation of activities on the ground. Unfortunately, research projects, classical research projects, after 4 or 5 years, when funding is over, activities stop, and sometimes activities continue on the ground, and projects are useful to create to stimulate the innovation ecosystem, and already create some interesting initiatives on the ground that can continue later on. But this, we need to have this at a large scale, and for this we really believe that the member states need to be involved. Not only the member states, let's say at the national level, or ministries at the national level, or funders at the national level, but also the regional authorities. In the case of agroecology, I think it's quite justified because, again, we are saying that it's place-based. So the role of regions in this is important, and we are also exploring this in the context of the partnership. So what would the partnership do? Quickly, the objectives are really to strengthen the agroecology research and innovation ecosystem in Europe, to improve farmers' knowledge on implementation of agroecology and its benefits, to improve the sharing of knowledge and experience across regions and countries. This is very important in terms of what we want to achieve, is really creating a network of living labs in Europe. And we believe that this is going to be a key instrument, that it's going to facilitate also this sharing of knowledge, besides what can be done in the living labs themselves, and in terms of also fostering research, etc. It's also about sharing experiences very much. In terms of activities, set up a common framework for methods, protocols, and data management to create those spaces for long-term, site-specific, and real-life experimentation and innovation, and create a network of these spaces and knowledge-sharing mechanisms. So where we are in the process, again, I thank you for your involvement, because it was, again, as I said at the beginning, very, very interesting webinars where we had the opportunity to exchange with all of you, also with the member states, with other actors such as industry, in starting co-creating really this partnership in practice, because we really believe that it has to be co-created. We need to share our views. In particular, in this case of this partnership, we have involved quite, I would say, complex concepts such as agroecology, for which as you know, there is no widely agreed definition. Okay, there are the 10 elements of FAO. There are other organizations working on trying to provide kind of definitions or orientations where agroecology is, but there is no perhaps common understanding, if you want, in Europe about the term of agroecology. In terms of living labs, is similar. There are living labs in some areas that are quite successful, for instance, in the digital world, but we need to come to an understanding of what agroecology living labs are really. What are the criteria? What do we mean by agroecology? What are the boundaries of it, etc. So this is a process that we started already in these webinars in May, June. Later on, in June, we organized another one where we started already to discuss together the vision, the ambition, and the objectives. So really, what do we want to achieve together with this partnership? And this was really a very useful input for us in moving the preparation of the partnership forward. In the screen, you can see a little bit in very broad lines what is going to be the process, or what is really the process, and what we are doing to get there. So the partnership co-creation is happening from now until 2022, more or less. It will be roughly 2 years that we will have to put together the partnership proposal. The call is going to put in the work program of Horizon Europe in 2023. The partnership would normally start in 2024, perhaps 2023, depending when the call is published in the work program. But most probably, I believe, will be 2024. In terms of what we are doing in fostering or preparing this, we have 2 Horizon 2020 projects, 2 coordination and support actions already, and agroecology for EU, AE for EU. These are really starting already to work really to prepare the ground for the partnership and preparing the community to start. We also plan to pilot the network of living labs. It's going to be a key contribution, I believe, in preparing the partnership. Of course, we will also have the key contribution of the Standing Committee on Agricultural Research, the SCAR. I would like to inform you that we are in the process of setting up a SCAR working group on agroecology, really to respond to the needs that we have in terms of what are the research and innovation priorities on agroecology? Where we should put the priority? How member states see this? The key value added of SCAR is really that they represent the member states, and I believe this is very important in the process. Of course, they should be involved from the beginning. We also have the national contact points that were already identified by member states to prepare for the partnership, and also there we are ensuring that there is coordination and see the linkages with what can happen at the national level compared to how the process happened at the European level. And also in preparing for a first identification of interesting initiatives that we could start paying attention to, or that we can think of analyzing in terms of identifying what are the criteria that we would like to see in these agroecology living labs. There is an ongoing. We have launched already at the end of October a pre-screening of agroecology living labs and research infrastructures in the form of an EU survey. And I thank you again for this, because the sector, you have been quite involved in preparing and helping us putting the right questions and the nice, the targeted questions that we would like to ask participants there. I hope some of you have already had the chance to have a look at it. I provide the link at the end of the presentation. It is very important for us to have a good overview of what could be interesting initiatives there. I should say that this survey is just a pre-screening. So it means that it's aimed at the first identification of interesting initiatives. The 2 CSAs, coordination and support actions that I mentioned earlier on, they are going to use that information, the result of those inputs, to undertake a more detailed mapping exercise in the first months of 2021. Concerning other new instruments, relevant new instruments in Horizon Europe, of course, we also have the missions here. I'm not going to enter into detail because it has already been mentioned quite thoroughly by the previous speaker, and it's also going to be the objective of the policy debate. But of course, we shouldn't forget that missions are the mission, especially the soil health and food mission, is going to be another possible instrument to support research in agroecology and organic farming. And here you see that the proposed mission already identifies the possibility, the opportunity to promote solutions based on the enhanced use of agroecological principles and organic agricultural practices that have shown evidence and important evidence on soil health. The last slide is very quickly just to show that we are, of course, research and innovation is going to be a key instrument, no doubt, in fostering this uptake, necessary uptake of agroecological and organic farming practices, but it's not really not the only one. We will continue under Horizon Europe. Of course, very important to remember that we will continue to have multi-actor projects. It is going to be perhaps even increased compared to Horizon 2020. We believe this is an important means to ensure that the end users, farmers, fishers, foresters, are really involved in research in a genuine manner. This is going to be continued, of course. We also have the EIP AGRI that you know, I believe. This is going to be boosted in the future. The operational groups, the focus groups are going to be going to continue to have an important role in the knowledge exchange, in bringing the research results to the ground. And of course, in the case of agroecology, the AP Agri already identified agroecology as the theme of the Agri Innovation Summit last year in France. I believe most of you perhaps, were at this summit, and I think it was really good to see that the summit confirmed that it was important to move European agriculture towards more sustainable farming practices inspired by agroecology. And also, I think it was also good to see or to come to the conclusion that there are huge or big research needs in agroecology. There are many things that need to be still discovered, also because it's a very place-based approach. So it will really depend on where these things are happening that we can find solutions to the given problem. And of course, the CAP is going to be an important instrument that we said at the beginning, and last but not least, the organic action plan. So if all these elements come nicely together, I think we are going to have a very nice future for agroecology and organic farming in Europe. To conclude, I hope I am still on time. I would like to give a few key messages very quickly because I think I'm already over time. Really to remind, the Horizon Europe is going to be a key enabler of the European Green Deal and its key strategies for the farming and food sector. Also, that to remind that we have several challenges to cater for our farming and food sectors, and there are, of course, several priorities for action. Organic and agroecology are among those. Research and innovation under Horizon Europe includes different instruments, so different possibilities. So we will have the normal calls under the work plan, but we will also have the partnerships and the missions. We are currently preparing, as I mentioned earlier, the first work program of Horizon Europe. This is going to cover the first 2 years only, 21, 22, but we will have, of course, more to come in the run-up to 2027. So we are not doing everything in the first 2 years. We are trying to have some distribution also with the rest of the years that are still to come. And as I said at the last slide, beyond research and innovation, several instruments are going to support the uptake of organic and agroecology. So we should see this in a holistic perspective. And with this, I give you a little bit of information if you are interested in having a look at what we have in Horizon Europe and also the agroecology partnership, the webinars that I mentioned, and the first screening of agroecology living labs that I really encourage you to have a look at and provide your contribution if you know of some interesting initiatives. So I think I finished. I'm sorry for going a little bit over time.
Thanks a lot, Susana. There have come a couple of questions to the chat, including one on the share of organic or the share of research organic food and farming in Horizon Europe, stating that this should be 25% according to the target of organic farmland. I propose to keep this question and also other questions for the policy debate that we will have later on, but I would like to pick one question that's more about the timing. So you said that member states are still negotiating on the budget of the MFF, the Multi-Annual Financial Framework, and Horizon Europe. When do you think this will be finalized? And another question, because this is the topic of today, is the mission and the SOL mission. Will there be a specific call for this SOL mission in the work program?
Okay, thank you. So you're asking me two things of which I have no control. For the budget, I don't know really when we will have this information. We hope it's going to be soon because, of course, we need to know this before the work program is published. But I don't know because it doesn't really depend on us that we have this agreement. We hope that the level of budget will keep to the challenge, keep up to the challenge. But we don't know. We really don't know this. And in terms of the soil mission, I'm not directly involved in the preparation of the soil mission. This will have to be seen, I think, in the coming months. I'm afraid I'm not able to answer you this, but perhaps it is a question for the next policy debate that is going to be about the mission. I would perhaps advise you to consider it for then.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your time,
No
Susana. As we are a little bit over time, I propose that we start the policy debate.